Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Help Us Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. My name's Thomas Molyneux. Today we're going to be talking about sex during porn addiction recovery, right? Okay, so last night I'm on a group call with the guys in the Beyond Compulsion Academy. We've got a community of people just like myself, normal, regular guys, susceptible to porn addiction. You know, we all got addicted to porn at young ages. A lot of us, 11, 12 years old, right? We had no idea of the harm of porn. We didn't know that it was like this drug, like heroin, and that our brain was going to develop these addictive neural pathways, and that we'd find it really hard to overcome this problem. So anyway, we're on this group call, and one of the guys in there is doing really, really well, months and months without porn. Life's just sort of on the right trajectory, things are getting better and better. And he had this really good question, which he shared with the group, really. And he was saying, you know, he's started to date a couple of people. And he was asking, well, what if like one of these women that he's dating or his future partner has actually been influenced by pornographic material, and they think that doing those kind of acts, you know, more porn influenced sexual acts is the way to go in the bedroom. Like, what if they think that's right? You know, what should he do? And it was a really, really interesting conversation. One guy replied and was like, well, you know what? Porn, it's everywhere now. A lot of people are watching porn and it's hard to get away from it. And a lot of people are into the things that they see in porn, etc., etc. But then another guy came in with a really, really good answer, which I loved. And I think before I share his answer, I want to just talk about how the addicted part of the mind can actually use this question to get people into a state of helplessness. Now, there's three parts in addiction. There's the addicted part of the mind, the child self, and the rational self. And these different parts have different roles and responsibilities. The rational self, of course, is looking after making sure you're going and doing your work, maybe earning enough money, you know, your relationships are in order, things like that, you know, looking after the house, maybe caring for those in your community, or just eating, you know, a nutritious bit of food, things like that, just normal everyday life stuff, you know, getting the clothes in the washing machine and shit. Then we got the addicted part of the mind. Now, the addicted part of the mind's just got one job, 24/7, just wants you to engage in your compulsive behaviour. It wants you to watch porn. That's its job. That's the only thing. The addicted part of the mind's going to be forever on this quest of getting you into the past, getting you into the future, spinning you in circles with a shit ton of questions. It's basically trying to control you. It's trying to make you like this puppet that just gives in to your impulses in one way or another. And it uses these questions very often to actually get you spinning in circles, feeling unsure of yourself, so that eventually you feel so anxious and confused that you end up going back to porn, right? So just thought I'd put that out there, that some of these questions, they can be unanswerable, and what we would often do is just disengage from them. The second thing to know, though, is that helplessness is very common nowadays. We live in this pornified, weird, messed up culture where a lot of things have become completely normalised, but they're not actually good for us. Like, they're not good for our mental health, but they're everywhere on social media. So anyway, we've got this pornified, messed up culture, and what we need is to actually have a bit of distance from it, spend time on our own so we can actually decide for ourselves what we know is true and what is right, and then look at the world from a lens of actually, is what's going on, what's become normal, is that actually okay with me? And so, you know, I'm walking along the street and I see someone wearing these skimpy clothes. You know, I might look at that with a judgment in a way, and not in a judgment of their character, but in a judgment of the behaviour, because there's a big difference between who these people wearing these clothes truly are deep down and the behaviours that they're now portraying. So I wouldn't judge the person necessarily, but I might go, actually, you know what? Why are you wearing that? Like, what's led to you wearing that? And do I think it's okay? Maybe not personally. I personally wouldn't want, you know, a family member to wear some of these clothes that I'm now seeing people wear. As for the porn side of things, similar thing for me. It's like, do I think it's actually right for a woman to think these things going on in porn is okay and normal and okay? You know, to me, it's like, no, I don't think it is. And the response that one of the guys said in the group last night, the third guy who sort of responded to this question, he was like, the main thing really is like, I know what's right and what's wrong. I don't need anyone online to tell me what's right and what's wrong, because I know that putting my dick in a in a woman's ear isn't the one. Like I know that's messed up. And he actually said that like as a bit of a joke, just to kind of show how the stuff going on in porn, it's so like weird and messed up. And okay, sure, we have fetishes which are a completely separate thing. You know, we may have a certain fetish, but that can be completely separate from what's going on with the porn addiction. And you'll always know whether the fetish is part of the porn addiction or whether that's just a completely separate thing. And you'll know what's okay with you and what's not. So even if there is a fetish which has nothing to do with the porn, if that, you know, is bringing you shame and self-disgust and a lack of self-respect, well, yeah, like obviously choose against engaging in that fetish behaviour. So anyway, I leave this group call last night after a good conversation. Really enjoyed it. It was very interesting to hear different people's perspectives. And I wanted to go see my girlfriend because I just got back from France and I hadn't seen her, and she had like a new sort of job interview in the morning, and so I left her to it the night before, so I hadn't seen her for a few days, and I'd been in France as well. So I go along the marina to get to hers because she lives across the marina from mine in Manchester in New Islington. And I'm like, hey, come out your flat, like I'm here, let's go for a walk. She comes out, fortunately, and we're just walking along the marina, and I was telling her a little bit about the conversation. Now, obviously, we keep things very confidential in terms of who specifically says what, and we don't really go into many details, but I was just saying, yeah, I was having this conversation about porn and how women are influenced by porn, and it reminded me that you said, you know, you never watched porn in your life, have you? And she was like, no, I haven't. And I was like, seriously? And I was like, because, you know, a lot of people have watched it. And she's like, no, I just haven't. And I was like, all right, had any of your friends ever like talked about watching porn before? And she was like, no, like I just grew up in a very wholesome group. And she was kind of laughing about it. Like she found it funny that I found it maybe unique that she hadn't watched porn. And I 100% believe her, like wholeheartedly, because one of my experiences, I suppose, having sex with her, it just is completely different to sex that I've ever had. It's based in connection, and it just feels real. It feels normal. It feels real. There's no thoughts of porn in my mind at all, and it just feels right. And it's really, really nice. It's completely different to any sex I've ever had before, really. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just interesting that people have been brought up in this culture where there's porn everywhere and sex sells, and it can influence how we view sex and what we think's okay and what's normal. And I think what we need to return to is just us knowing for ourselves what is right for me, what do I actually want, rather than being influenced by the porn sort of addicted part of the brain. And we'll always know what's right for us and what's not. So returning to the question, you know, what sort of sex is normal in a relationship? It's up to you to decide, basically. It's up to you to decide. When I was younger, I was very heavily influenced by porn. Nowadays it isn't at all, because I've rewired my brain. And I think that should be the goal for everyone. The other thing that I remember thinking about last night, and I shared this on the group call, is there's once this girl who I'd been sort of talking to on a dating app, and she booked a meal for us. Like she paid like a deposit or some shit. It's like £20 as well for a meal for us to go out together. And this was like 3 or 4 days before the meal that we were talking. We were still messaging. It's like 3 or 4 days until the meal. And in that time, in those like 3 or 4 days, we were talking more and more. And she ended up disclosing to me that she watches porn like 3 times a day. And I was like, shit, that is insane. Like, I'm basically going on a date with someone addicted to porn. So we go on the date and yeah, we have sex and stuff. And just looking back now, I can see that the reason I had sex was simply because I was in an addiction at that time. And the sex was basically just the same as me watching porn. There wasn't much difference. So for anyone who thinks that maybe, you know, you can just replace porn with sex, you know, have a think about that, whether that's actually what you want. You know, do you want to have some porn-like sex, or do you want real connection with a partner who you actually care about? And so yeah, these are my thoughts for today. Hopefully it can help someone. I think we all know deep down what is right and what is wrong for us. And I think the world externally is getting more and more crazy and insane and weird, and sometimes we need to take some time away from it and really sort of just look at it with a fresh lens and see that some of the shit going down right now is pretty weird. That's not to say we shouldn't have any fetishes. I can't seem to say that word. But it's more just like, look, we know what's reasonable, we know what's not reasonable, and we don't need anyone else to tell us. And we could spend a lifetime on the internet searching for what is reasonable and what's not. But ultimately, it comes down to us to decide. Hopefully, this is useful to someone. Thank you for listening. And yeah, if you want any more information, then I'll leave a link in the description. Some free training on the Beyond Compulsion method. That's really for anyone who wants to start rewiring their brain and overcome a porn or sex addiction. Cheers, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.